building wealth and then also not wanting to be having to go paycheck to paycheck. For maybe someone who's listening that is feeling that sort of paycheck to paycheck feeling, what advice do you have for them to flip the switch, to make a change, to get better?
Well, that's kind of a complicated question. I'm not exactly sure which part of it. Like for me, it's probably easier for me to explain the way it kind of works with me, and then we can maybe dive into it or whatever. But for me, and people sometimes raise their eyebrows when I admit this, because sometimes I'm just brutally honest, right? And like
Please do.
they say, like, what's your biggest fear? I spit it out right away: being poor. Like, that's my biggest fear. Like, well, what about, if you're scared of heights or whatever? No, yeah, I am actually scared of heights in a way, but I don't really think about it. But I definitely think about being poor all the time, right? And I mean, at all sorts of various levels of feeling that way, right? And I'm so quirky and whatever. Like I won't even eat craft dinner because it makes me feel poor. And so, and of course, that just became a habit in my life, and I just never ate it. And now I still don't eat it, right? But when I was younger, I says, I'm not eating craft dinner. That's what poor people eat. And so, you know, the for me, you know, I just sort of have this burning desire to always do the next right thing that I need to try to get myself ahead. And you know, and I mean, I'm always trying to accumulate a little bit more so I can spread the distance between me and, I'm just using simple language, right? Between me and poverty as far as possible, right? The more I can get ahead, the farther distance I have to go back, before I would hit zero, right? Kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And so the biggest thing is, like, for people that are paycheck to paycheck, is like, well, the first thing is the paycheck itself, right? Is that you got to think about that. Like, although, even when you're an entrepreneur, most people still get a paycheck, right? Like, in the beginning, you might not get one because you're starting a business, there's no revenue, whatever. But I mean, once there's any kind of a business, if you work in it and that's the business you work in, you probably extract a wage for which you get a W-2, or in Canada, you get a T4 or whatever, right? I mean, that's a paycheck, right? But if you're working paycheck to paycheck, then that's your only source of revenue, right? And so you're 100% dependent upon that, which means you're 100% dependent upon the employer. And the thing is that there's no leverage in that for you, right? So you need to start looking at ways of expanding yourself beyond that one paycheck, right? So yeah, so maybe look, I mean, I can't really quit my job right now, and it does feed my family, whatever, but they don't control what you do they only control 9 to 5. They don't control 5 to 9, right? You go home and work on any kind of a side gig, a side hustle you want. And now you've got two paychecks, right? And that second paycheck is one you control 100%. You're not leveraging that you're not like going and getting another job at like Subway and saying, now you give me a paycheck. Now you have two paychecks to paychecks. You're creating paychecks for yourself and other people. And that's the big change that occurs, where you can start changing your situation. And I mean, it doesn't always work out. It's not always going to be, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to have money and I'm going to be rich, right? It doesn't work that way. Like, you're going to try things, some will work, some won't. You'll hire people, they'll suck, maybe they'll be great. That's what life is made up of, right? But you have to start thinking outside the realm of, oh, I need a bigger paycheck, because it doesn't matter like how much money you make. Every raise you get never seems to increase your standard of living very much, because your taxes are higher, and it really doesn't afford you, unless you were tripling, unless you go from 50K to 150K. Yeah, you might feel that. But when you go from 50K to 57K, and 57 to 62, and 62 to 67, and 67 to 78, like, you never feel that stuff. It makes a few $100 every 2 week difference or something. And your life just absorbs it, but you don't really feel any better off, right? You have to make quantum leaps and change your situation, and not become so reliant on the paycheck. The paycheck should just pay for your day-to-day expenses, food, stuff like that, rent, mortgage, whatever. And then, you should be building wealth inside of your business in order to really change your financial situation.